For nearly 2 decades, Cambodia was not just a neighbor, but China's closest and most reliable partner in Southeast Asia. The relationship was marked by frequent high-level visits, grand ceremonies, and a sense of shared destiny that was broadcast to the world. Chinese loans and investments poured in at an unprecedented scale, transforming Cambodia's infrastructure almost overnight. Roads, bridges, and gleaming skyscrapers reshaped the skylines of Phnom Penh and Sihanoukville, while new ports and special economic zones promised prosperity and modernization. The physical landscape of Cambodia was being rewritten, with Chinese money at the heart of this transformation. In return, Cambodia became China's staunchest ally within ASEAN, consistently blocking criticism of Beijing and aligning its foreign policy with Chinese interests. At international meetings, Cambodia's support for China was unwavering, often putting it at odds with its Southeast Asian neighbors. This so-called ironclad friendship brought significant political cover for Cambodia's leadership, shielding it from Western pressure and criticism over human rights and democracy. The government found in China a partner who asked few questions and offered much-needed support, but the costs of this partnership soon mounted. Cambodia's debt to China soared to record levels, and its sovereignty was increasingly questioned both at home and abroad. Concerns grew that the country was trading its independence for short-term gains. Sihanoukville, once a quiet and idyllic beach town, was rapidly transformed into a casino hub catering almost exclusively to Chinese nationals. This influx fueled resentment among locals, who saw their hometowns changing beyond recognition and felt left out of the promised prosperity. Critics warned that Cambodia was becoming a de facto Chinese client state, with its economy and diplomacy increasingly tied to Beijing's whims. Editorials and public debates questioned whether the nation's future was truly its own. While the elite prospered from Chinese deals, ordinary Cambodians faced rising inequality, lost jobs, and a growing sense of alienation in their own country. The gap between rich and poor widened, and many felt the benefits of Chinese investment were passing them by. Dependence on a single powerful patron left Cambodia vulnerable to economic shocks and political pressure. As the downsides of the relationship became impossible to ignore, calls for change grew louder. The stage was set for a dramatic reevaluation of Cambodia's future, as leaders and citizens alike began to question the true cost of their long partnership with China. The long dance with China was about to take a new turn, as Cambodia looked to redefine its place in a rapidly changing world. In 2025, Cambodia's foreign policy quietly shifted, marking the beginning of a significant transformation in the nation's approach to the world. The capital, Phnom Penh, buzzed with anticipation as subtle changes began to ripple through the corridors of power. A younger generation of leaders, more attuned to global dynamics, recognized the dangers of over-reliance on China. They understood that true sovereignty required a more balanced path, and so they began to chart a new course for Cambodia's future. At the Apex Summit, Cambodia broke from tradition. For the first time, its representatives advocated for a rules-based international order and called for respect for all nations' sovereignty, regardless of size or power. This was a clear and unmistakable signal. Cambodia would no longer automatically echo Beijing's positions. The world took notice as Cambodia asserted its independence on the global stage. Behind the scenes, diplomats worked tirelessly to rebuild and strengthen ties with Western nations and ASEAN neighbors. Their goal was diversification, ensuring Cambodia would not be beholden to any single power. The strategy wasn't to abandon China, but to rebalance and hedge. Classic moves for small states caught between great powers. Cambodia sought to protect its interests by keeping its options open. By engaging both the US and China, Cambodia aimed to gain flexibility and leverage, hoping to secure the best possible outcomes for its people. This pivot required not only skillful diplomacy, but also a clear and unified vision for the country's future. Leaders had to navigate complex relationships and make difficult choices. The events of 2025 marked the first step in Cambodia's new era of foreign relations, a bold move that would shape the nation's destiny for years to come. Cambodia was determined to reclaim its own voice, forging a path defined by independence, resilience, and hope for a brighter future. Sensing opportunity, the United States moved quickly to re-engage with Cambodia. High-level visits resumed and military cooperation was revived, focusing on maritime security and disaster relief. The U.S. expanded scholarships and cultural exchanges, exposing young Cambodians to American values. USAID ramped up support for health, education, and governance, while economic ties deepened, especially in garments and footwear. Washington's message was clear. Reform and diversification would be rewarded with partnership. Cambodia now had a tangible alternative to its dependence on China. Cambodia's pivot came with economic risks. China, feeling slighted, pulled back on investments, while U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods hit Cambodian factories using Chinese components. The garment sector, vital for jobs and exports, faced uncertainty and fears of layoffs. The government scrambled to diversify exports, seeking new trade deals with the EU, Japan, and South Korea. Attracting non-Chinese investors meant tackling corruption and improving the business climate. Cambodia worked with the U.S. to prove its products weren't just Chinese goods in disguise. The country stood at an economic crossroads, forced to adapt or risk instability. The pivot's success would depend on navigating these new realities. The stakes for Cambodia's future had never been higher. Officially, Cambodia celebrated its friendship with China, hosting grand ceremonies and highlighting decades of diplomatic ties. Yet beneath the surface, public opinion was quietly but steadily shifting, especially among the younger generation. Many Cambodians, particularly the youth, felt left out of the economic boom. They saw little benefit from Chinese investment, just rising living costs, lost job opportunities, and growing environmental damage. The rapid transformation of their neighborhoods often seemed to favor outsiders over locals. Social media became a powerful tool, amplifying stories of land disputes, labor abuses, and crime linked to Chinese projects. Online, frustrations and concerns spread quickly, fueling a sense of injustice and unease. "They have their own world," said Chanta, a university student. "It feels like we are losing our city." Many young people echoed this sentiment, worried about losing their cultural identity and sense of belonging. Anti-Chinese sentiment grew, sparking protests and fueling pressure on leaders to reconsider the relationship. Community meetings and public debates became more common, as citizens demanded a greater say in their country's future. In contrast, the U.S. and the West gained favor, seen as symbols of opportunity, fairness, and a more hopeful future. Western culture and values began to resonate more strongly with Cambodian youth. English classes filled up, and American pop culture thrived in the capital. Young Cambodians eagerly embraced Western music, movies, and fashion, seeing them as gateways to new possibilities. "American money builds schools, Chinese money builds casinos," said a moto taxi driver, capturing the growing divide in public perception. This perception was a powerful force behind Cambodia's pivot, shaping conversations in homes, cafes, and public squares across the country. The people's voice was now reshaping national policy, signaling a new era in Cambodia's relationship with the world. Nowhere were the downsides of Chinese investment clearer than in Dara Sakor and Sihanoukville. Dara Sakor's vast development displaced thousands, destroyed livelihoods, and raised fears of a Chinese military foothold. Promised jobs rarely materialized for locals. Instead, misery and loss became the norm. Sihanoukville's casino boom brought crime, soaring rents, and social chaos, pushing Cambodians out. When online gambling was banned, the city collapsed, leaving empty buildings and a shattered economy. These projects became cautionary tales of unchecked, unsustainable development. The scars ran deep, fueling public anger and government resolve to seek better partners. Cambodia's painful lessons drove its search for more responsible investment. The era of easy Chinese money was over. The country was ready for change. Cambodia is now courting Western investment, knowing reforms are essential. The government launched anti-corruption drives and streamlined bureaucracy to attract new partners. Legal reforms aim to reassure investors from the US, Europe, and Japan. Western support, however, is conditional. Progress on democracy and human rights is expected. Small gestures, like easing pressure on opposition groups, signaled a willingness to change. Western investment promises better technology, labor standards, and long-term growth. Cambodia's new openness is a pragmatic move for sustainable prosperity. The country is betting its future on a broader set of partners. The Ream naval base became a symbol of Cambodia's geopolitical balancing act. Long suspected of hosting Chinese military ambitions, the base drew US scrutiny. In a surprise move, Cambodia offered managed access to the US and other navies, without granting basing rights. This reassured the West and signaled Cambodia's commitment to neutrality. For the US, it was a strategic win. For Cambodia, a masterstroke of hedging. The base's future will test Cambodia's ability to balance competing powers. Ream is now a litmus test for Cambodia's new foreign policy. The world is watching. Cambodia's pivot from China to a more balanced foreign policy is a story of a small nation seeking autonomy amid superpower rivalry. The 2025 shift was a pragmatic correction, not a betrayal. Cambodia must now balance China and the US, reform at home, and meet its people's rising expectations. For China, Cambodia's move is a warning. Unchecked influence has limits. The US-led order's appeal endures, especially on sovereignty and rules. Cambodia's future depends on wise leadership and resilient citizens. By diversifying partnerships, it has stepped into the promise and challenge of a multipolar world. The coming years will reveal if this bold pivot brings true independence and prosperity.